Hello, folks. I'm going to cover in this video the tools you need to start your venture into watchmaking. These are very affordable, inexpensive tools that do work. I've tested them, time tested them, I would say. And like I said, they're very inexpensive. They're not going to break your bank, they're not going to break your wallet. They will get your feet wet. And you can use them even when you get more serious into the hobby as backups. uh, of course, and I am talking to hobbyists, beginners mostly, who are trying to start out and are a little bit overwhelmed with what they need to begin with to do watchmaking for a hobby. Professionals, obviously, they're going to buy a whole different set of tools because they're working 8 or 10 hours a day with them, and comfort's concern, and just durability, longevity. These are going to, for the home amateur hobbyist, serve you well. And even if, like I said, if you get more serious into it, they should last. They should hold up for a while or be a decent backup set uh, for occasional needs. So let's start with the movement holder. This holder, it's non-branded. I bought it off of AliExpress. And just so you know, a lot of this lower end stuff that you're going to encounter, even at the bigger watch supply houses, are probably made in either India or, there's a brand in India called Anchor, or there's a lot of them are made in China. They're contracted out to be made in China, even through brand names sometimes too. So I don't get hung up too much on where things are made. I go according to price. If I'm paying for a watch movement holder like this, which is the actual movement holder, and you get two of them with this. And before I go any further, I did pay, with shipping through AliExpress, like $5 for this. It was very inexpensive. I've tested them. They work fine. So they hold the movement. The movement doesn't move. It doesn't mar the movement. The edges, there's no really sharp edges or anything. So it does its job. It screws nice. There's really nothing negative about it other than some, maybe you want something more polished or a little bit better looking, but it does its job. For $5, you can't beat it, especially if you're beginning out. Because my video here, I'm gearing more towards somebody who, if they later decide they really love doing this, they can invest further as they build up their tool arsenal, so to speak. But if they do this and they start this hobby and they say, well, it's just not for me, or I do it for on occasion, these tools will serve you fine. That's what I'm trying to get to. So without breaking the bank again. So with that, you got two movement holders, more for a ladies movement. This is the one you're probably going to use the most, but like I said, $5, including shipping, extremely cheap. Now, this is a case cushion pad, also about $5. You can see it's not as good quality as some of the other ones out there. It doesn't have the nice round, thicker cushion, but I have one of those, and I will say that I tend to use this a lot still because it's flat and it doesn't allow parts or things to roll off. But so sometimes I still pull this out and use it, even though this is the first one I bought when I started out, and it still works, and it's cushiony enough to absorb the shock when you flip you undo the movement screws and you flip it over, and the movement drops on it. It's just enough cushion to be adequate for what your need is. So $5. So we're already at 10. Let's cover the tweezers. Tweezers are a bit of controversy because everybody has an opinion on what's the best, and you'll probably hear Dumont more than anything else, and Dumonts are excellent tweezers for watchmakers. But again, I'm doing this video for somebody starting out and not wanting to invest a lot of money into Swiss. If they choose not to want to invest a lot of money in Swiss tools like Dumont or Bergeon, or they just don't have the budget for it right away. Some of these you may want to just do over time and just kind of add to your collecting. Like, watch tool collecting is just like watch collecting. People collect new tools and vintage tools. There's a whole different segment of that for watch people. So that's kind of a fun part too. But so anyways, without getting off the subject, which I tend to do a lot, these are Vetus tweezers. And so basically if you need just one, you really just need one to start out with, and that's the equivalent of a number 3 Dumont, and that's what it is. And I think this is referred to as an ST10 if you look on eBay, or if you go on AliExpress, you will find it maybe a dollar or two cheaper. These are I paid $5.99 for this one, and it was a shipper based in California, and I think he's just buying lots of them from China, and he's just he's selling them for a buck more to make a profit. Because if you go on AliExpress, you can get these for around 450, 499. So if you don't mind waiting for the slower shipping and you want to save a buck, you can go ahead and order them from AliExpress. But they're very good tweezers. They don't, parts don't slip off the jaws. They're ground well enough to do the task you need to do. They're not Dumont level, but they're definitely going to get the job done as far as for the hobbyist, for just random jobs and practicing and things of that nature. So those are the equivalent to number 3. So those are the ST10s. I want to say these are ST. Let me look on the back package here. These might be ST. Oh, I forget which number these are. ST14s possibly. But these are the equivalent to Dumont number 5s, and they're just a finer point. But as somebody starting out, you just really need one tweezer, and that's just the ST10. If you bought Vitas, there's one brand called Stella, I think. They're Italian-made tweezers. You can go that route too. Those are fine excellent for the money. Italian-made tweezers. There's a couple brands out there, but if you stick with brands like this that have been out there that do make tweezers, that's kind of what they focus on. You really can't go wrong, especially for the money. I mean, $5, $6. So, and here's another set I bought just out of, a lot of these I bought out of curiosity and thinking maybe I'll just do a video on them for people starting out and not wanting to go broke. But sometimes you do need, it's called for to have tweezers with a plastic tip. And these are, you can see there's Phillips screws in there to allow you to change the tips if they get broken, or if you just need different styles or angles or finer or thicker points. And it came with this bag, and this was $7 or $8, I think, through AliExpress. And again, this is Vitas brand tweezers. So, company's based out of China, but that's all they do is they focus on tweezers. I don't know if they make other things, but they even have a website, and they're just kind of trying to compete in that market of maybe lower end hobbyist tweezers and stuff like that. And it seems like they work fine. Where you're going to see the differences is if you're doing this for a living, 8 or 10 hours a day at as a watchmaker servicing customer movements. Dumonts might be a little bit more comfortable as far as picking up and just kind of handling, and the way their shape is a little bit different in the tension. Those are the differences. But again, for the home hobbyist that's doing random jobs and practicing on movements, starting out, going to be totally fine. So let's move on to screwdrivers. You can't start watchmaking without a good set of screwdrivers. And as I've tried out different brands, I have to say this brand right here, which is, let me show you the package, is Eurotool. Esslinger sells this brand. I think Cousins UK sells this brand. I haven't checked recently, but I thought at one time they did. These are on the screwdrivers are marked made in France. So I think for that money that you're paying around $20, $22, they are a really good set of screwdrivers. The blades are pretty finely ground and even. This one I think I've kind of used as a little bit of a pry bar. It might be a little bit marred up. You probably won't be able to see it anyways in the camera. But they're out of the package. They're pretty decent set for that kind of money. For what do you get? 6 screwdrivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So, and they have a lock style where when you change a blade, you have to use that, you use a screwdriver to lock it into place. I did start off, my very first set was this one, which were Eurotools. And again, this was the one that kind of got me hooked on Eurotool. And I would say the only thing I don't like about these, and maybe I don't have the collars tight enough, is I can never seem to get the collars tight enough to where if I put enough pressure, the blade slips, because it is kind of a compression, a pressure lock as you screw it in, collar lock. So I ended up buying this set, and these work perfectly fine. They're Compared to my Bergeron set, they are, you know, again, they're not as well built. Probably, I would say. I can't really tell the difference. I don't really have the maybe you know the top spins a little bit more precision, and I'm sure the blades are definitely a little bit more ground to precision. But as far as just being a screwdriver and having a nice straight edge on that blade where it doesn't slip off, it's ground right where it doesn't slip off the work, or it's not, you know, jagging up screws. They work perfectly fine, and they're a very inexpensive set. Like I said, about $22. If you shop around, I think you can get them for around $19-20, somewhere around there. You know, some with shipping though. So that covers that. And as far as how do you remove watch hands? Well, you can go about that in a couple different ways. There's this one, which is a hands puller, and I forget the name. Now, every time I shoot these videos, but there's a style these are, and now all of a sudden I can't remember the name. But as soon as I stop this video, I'll remember it. But these are kind of like an automatic style where you put it onto the dial and you squeeze, and I don't know if you can see it, but as you squeeze, it has a pulling action with the jaws. Now you can see this is a cheaper set, and the blades are not ground as evenly, and I don't really use them anymore. But these were my first set, and they did work. But again, like I said, you know, these were $8, I think I paid. But the Bergeron brand that these kind of copy, there's no marking on them, but I'll be darned, I can't remember the actual style of these, and I'll have to post it in the comments. But and it's my old age one. But these work fine for that if you want to go that route. But I think you'll see a lot of watchmakers using lever style manual hands pullers, and these are very inexpensive set. Although I just bought these for, I think I paid 18, I want to say. And these are wider blade, which kind of are nice because they distribute the load a little bit more on a dial. But if you're doing watch, as you progress in the hobby, you'll learn that, you know, your biggest goal with pulling off hands off off the dial, you know, to get the movement separated from the dial, is to not mar up the surface. And that's where you're going to use plastic bags. You're going to put a plastic bag over you keep these around, just some kind of plastic. And you'll see a lot of watchmakers, you'll learn from a lot of professional watchmakers that they'll put like over the dial, they'll put over the surface something to protect the dial so it doesn't get marred up. There are little inserts you can buy for those that are pretty inexpensive. Esslinger sells them. They're like little cutout paper, kind of thin, but they do protect the surface of the dial, so you don't you avoid added protection of avoiding to mar up the surface, especially on vintage dials that are not easy to remove the scratches, or you just don't want to go down that road. But you'll learn that as you practice. So that basically, let's cover this. You need a duster. Inexpensive duster. I like this one because it's got a plastic tip, but this was the first one I bought, and it was marked as a camera / watchmaker duster. It's just a cheap duster. I think $4 or $5, and it does the job. It's got plenty of air pressure, but you can blow a dial, blow debris off a dial or off the movement as you're disassembling it, or the case. It works fine. It's not an air compressor, but it works as you need it. And like I said, I know some of the Bergeron ones that you can buy that are a little bit they're around $30 or $40. They're nice, but I don't like a brass or a metal tip because I tend to be sometimes. I wouldn't say I do it all the time, but just in case I get too close to the work and I actually bump it, well, I don't want to leave a scratch. With plastic, you're less likely to do that. So again, I'm not a professional watchmaker, but I've been doing it for a little over a year now. So the other thing you're going to need is a case knife. I got tape on mine. These are dirt cheap, the generic ones. A Bergeron's probably going to run you about $25, but this is just a basic knife you can get off Esslinger or anywhere for a few dollars. But it's a necessity for watchmaking because you need to pry off either bezels, and case backs with it. So and here's another style too, which is kind of useless, but I'm sure in some instances sometimes you need a finer blade point for it to get under work. Another necessity you're going to need is a magnification. I think this is the 5X. I want to say this one. It had a light on it. It's just a cheapie. But it works, and you can see your work. But the quality of the lens is not going to be as good as like a Bausch or a Bergeon, and you can later upgrade to one. But as far as seeing the work, it works well enough to where you can see the work. You're not really struggling to see what you're doing. So that's really if you do the math on a lot of this stuff, like I said, you're just even if you just get a basic set of pullers, these were $7 or $8. You start with one set of tweezers, which are like equivalent to number 3. That's about $5 or $6. Your movement holders are $5 to $10. You can find a nice set. Like I said, I paid $5, but that was a couple months ago, so I don't know what they are now. Maybe $1 more, $1 less. Case cushion. Like I said, I like this one for certain circumstances, but this is a very cheapy one. Usually the ones you see have a nice thick pad, so it does what it's supposed to do as a cushion. But sometimes that serves me well for different purposes. Oilers. Let's cover oilers because these are another thing. You don't have to buy Bergeon brand. You can get whatever Esslinger's selling or Auto Free. They usually run about $3 or $4 a piece if you buy them individually. Really, you need just like a small and a medium oiler. You're not going to be able to see the tip, but some of them have different tips. But they're basically for the oil that I showed in the previous video for you to dip in a cup. And I'm going to cover the first cup I started with, and I still use it as a backup cup, is this one. And this is $5, I think $5 or $6, and it just holds 3 lubricants. As I started getting more vested into doing the hobby a little bit more serious, this was, I ended up needed like a rail. I bought a rail watch oiler where it's got like 5 or 6 cups, the 6 cups, and that's in the other room. I'm sorry. But that one I hold a couple cups, and it opens and closes. Each one's got an individual lid. You can find them on eBay, and Bergeon sells them. And the ones on eBay are obviously kind of similar to it. I wouldn't say a knockoff, but they're the same concept. And they're made out of metal. And the problem with this one is this is perfect for a beginner because it holds 3 different lubricants. You just drop your little to avoid contamination. Never take your oiler and dip it directly in the bottles of the Mobius bottles that you buy, whether you buy the 8,000 or any of the grease lubricants. Don't dip that directly in there. Get you a oil cup, at minimum something like this, a $5 oil cup, and you put a drop in here. And then you work out of here because you want to avoid cross contamination. That's really dipping and redipping, and and that's let me get into the other part here to clean your oiler and to clean movement parts. This is called Roidico. Now this is where you're going to have to chip in and buy the Bergeon, and it's not a bad thing because this is inexpensive. It's around $5 or $6 just for a. Let me see. I got one. Looks like Wrigley Spearmint chewing gum. It's just a putty. It's a sticky putty used to clean things as you're moving along. Watchmakers will use this to have it. They'll actually have it on that oiler that I was talking about, and they'll take and just kind of run it through here first and clean off their oiler. And I already dropped my Wrigley Spearmint gum. Oh, right it go. And they'll have that to clean it off before they go into the different dip, because as you can see with these, which I covered in a previous video, you can look up. That's the red is HP 1300. The greenish is 9010, and I have a different lubricant there for something else I was doing with this, but I haven't cleaned it out yet. It's already a year old, but. Again, like I covered in the previous video, hobbyists have more flexibility than I think a professional watchmaker does, because if I'm servicing customer movements, like if I ever got to the caliber of servicing Rolex movements or something like that, these oils, you want to change them out, and you're not going to leave cups like this laying around like I'm doing with this one with lubricants, and that's just kind of a backup for little little things, because I think probably if you look, you can already see it's drying out, or there's a little bit of dirt in there, and I just got to clean that out. But I don't use that cup anymore. But again, starting out, that served me well for what I needed for just to get it going, and having a separate oil cup where you're not cross contaminating. Now, in my next video, I'm going to cover what you need to do movement cleaning, which will get into ultrasonic cleaners. That's the most inexpensive, and I'll cover that on the next video. But this is just to get some of the basics. Oh, and I want to show my other dusty thing that you may want to invest in, and this is another inexpensive item, is this is a demagnetizer. You will want to get this, and this is the first one I bought, and it's just an inexpensive one. I want to say $9 or $10. And what you do is basically, as you're working with your movements and your tools, you can get the metal blades on these screwdrivers can get magnetized. And what you're going to do is you're basically going to hold this button down, and you're going to run the screwdriver and demagnetize it. So you're not, when you're working on your work, you're not picking up the screw and it's backwards, and you're trying to, having to reorientate it to get it into the hole. There's nothing worse than magnetized screwdrivers. So you want to demagnetize, you want a demagnetizer, and there's an inexpensive one you could buy off AliExpress. Dusty as all heck, because I really haven't used it in a while. But you'll know when you need it, because you will start to get that where you're picking up screws when you're getting close to it, and you don't want to have that scenario going on because it's a pain in the neck. So you want to be able to demagnetize your screwdrivers. And probably last that I'm going to cover with this video is a parts holder. Again, another inexpensive item, $5 or $6. Shop around. You can get them off AliExpress or eBay. And, it's kind of I would say it's a knockoff of the version. So it's a little bit thinner plastic. It's not as nice. Some are glass. But for me, I'd rather have plastic for what I'm doing, because I don't want to worry about something shattering. But it just holds the parts as you're going along. You're separating your parts as you're taking the movement, doing the movement service, and getting you ready for cleaning in the ultrasonic or the... and I'm going to cover that. Like I said, I'm going to cover that too, because you don't even need an ultrasonic as a beginner. You can just get some cleaning chemicals to clean, and some alcohol. I won't get into that now, but I'll cover that in the next video. I'll do a short video on that. But there's your basics to start out. And it's not going to break your bank. And if you like it, you still have tools that you could use. There's still even down the road, you can use them as backups, or just continue using them, because none of these tools I've showed you are tools that are bad. For their money, they do the job perfectly fine, and will continue to do the job fine. But I think you, as you get more serious into the hobby, you start wanting to buy the Swiss versions that are the mainstays for watchmakers, as you feel more, you're getting more skilled in it. So that's not an abnormal feeling, but you don't need to. You can, as a hobbyist, you can continue to use these tools for a long time. I don't see these, like tweezers. When tweezers start to get marred up from continual use, and I've used these quite a bit, and they're looking really good. So the alloy that they chose is obviously hardened correctly, and it's, and this one, these won't magnetize. So there's stainless steel, obviously, and that's good too. So they seem to be very good quality for the $5 or $6 you pay for it. But again, as a professional watchmaker, I'm going to probably invest in a Bergeon screwdriver set. I'm going to invest in Dumont tweezers. But for a home hobbyist, this is where I started. And comparing to the Dumonts and the Bergeon that I later bought, have zero complaints. They are still excellent tools to use for a home hobbyist. Okay. And if you like the video, please subscribe and stick around because I'm going to be posting a video on how to do cleaning of, starting to use the cleaning methods of watch movements that are inexpensive for beginners. Again, this is my segment for covering what's needed for beginners without breaking the bank. Okay, thanks.